I was actually terrible at writing titles. I was so bad, I almost got fired. I eventually figured it out. I was like, all right, this is what makes a good YouTube title. This is like, the process for writing good YouTube titles. And I essentially turned that into the newsletter.
What's the most surprising, or what's one of the bigger things or unexpected things that you've found with YouTube titles or even YouTube thumbnails?
The first thing that comes to mind with titles is that things don't change that much.
The way that guys like MrBeast, they link their titles with their thumbnails with the first 5 seconds.
So all we're doing here is like studying psychology. So if you could just be a master at psychology, then you'll be able to write good YouTube titles.
In this episode, we're talking with Jake Thomas, the absolute master of YouTube titles and click-through rates.
Jake is also the founder of Creator Hooks, one of the biggest YouTube growth newsletters on the planet. I think then the difficult part is where's the fine line between being too obvious in that and not?
There are some things that work just a lot all the time. People don't really care. Like, they want to see you and your take and your personality and your thoughts on something. I wonder if it's just like a big kind of overarching theme of like, just get back to real.
How do you approach A/B testing in titles?
That's one of the best ways to get better at titles and thumbnails, is to just look.
In this episode, we'll delve into how you can significantly increase your YouTube views by writing better YouTube titles using psychology.
We'll cover how people are missing out on sometimes millions of views because of these common mistakes in their titles.
And we'll go through why most new YouTube channels struggle to even get 100 views per video and what you can do about it.
YouTube titles are by far one of the most important components to get views, so if you're interested in getting more views and making more money on YouTube, then this episode with Jake Thomas is definitely for you.
This is the Playstack podcast, where we talk about everything B2B YouTube growth.
All right, cool. Jake, thank you so much for joining us on the Playstack podcast. When Mike and I were preparing for this podcast, because I've been following your newsletter for a long time and I wasn't sure how long, I just checked and it was March 2023. And what I just love about the newsletters is that it's structured the same way. Pet peeves with certain newsletters is like there's too much information going on and you don't want to read it all. So there's like 2 newsletters that I continuously follow, and one is yours because I can pick and choose what I want to read, and the other one is the Published Press from Colin and Samir because they have a similar format as well. So I want to thank you for your newsletter and actually how I think it's probably the longest newsletter I've been following. So thank you for that. And so thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's cool because it's skimmable. So it's easy for you to read, and it's very like templatized. So it's easy for me to write. So it's a win-win for both of us. And I just sent out the 163rd edition. Knock on wood, I haven't missed any weeks yet. But yeah, I mean, easy to write and easy to read has let me be consistent, and I think that's helped.
Milan knows, because I tell him all the time, how much I don't like reading. But as Milan said, your newsletter is one of the only newsletters that I will read because it is so easy. So I'm curious, how did you what was your story and what kind of prompted you to create the newsletter? Because it's surely one of the biggest YouTube growth newsletters. And what was your story, and what made you make that decision to create the newsletter?
Yeah, it's crazy to even like consider that it's one of the bigger newsletters in the YouTube space. Like it still feels like I just started it yesterday, and it's like just this like weird thing that I'm hacking together. But yeah, I was a channel manager at a fishing company. And this was my first job in YouTube. Like I'd done pretty much everything in marketing except for YouTube. And my boss was really good at writing titles, and he was like banging it into my head, the importance of writing good titles. And I was actually terrible at writing titles. I was so bad, I almost got fired. Because, on YouTube, it's like one of the most important things. Before that, my boss was writing titles and he was really good. So like there was just this massive drop off from like him, like the guy, to like me, like never written a YouTube title before. So bad. So I almost got fired. I eventually figured it out. I was like, all right, this is what makes a good YouTube title. This is like, the process for writing good YouTube titles. And I essentially turned that into the newsletter. So we had fishing coaches. And like every Monday morning at 8:00, which is 8:00 Eastern time in the United States, we would have our content meeting, and I'd be like, "Hey guys, this video in finance did really well. It was 5 best credit cards of 2024. let's do 5 best trout lures of 2024. And that would work really well for us. So I would just look in other niches, under other industries, and then bring those to ours, because we were saltwater fishing in the Southeast United States. So we were pretty niche. Like, there wasn't any like big players that we could get inspiration from. So, so just looking at other successful niches, bringing those in helped us grow our channel. And then I was kind of like, well, this doesn't really matter like what niche you're in. Like, I bet this would work for other people. And at the time I was looking for a business that was anti algorithm. And I was like, all right, I want to start a newsletter. Like, Google or YouTube algorithm change isn't going to like ruin my newsletter. I wrote out like this Google Doc of like, kind of like a sample, like the first edition of the newsletter. I sent it out to like 100 people. I think like 10, 15 or 20 people emailed me back and they're like, oh, this is pretty sweet. And that's how it got started.
That's really cool. And then by now you build a tool on the back, or is it a tool or is it more like a database?
Both. So each week in the newsletter, I break down 5 successful videos and like kind of why they worked. So people were telling me like, hey, I go back and I read your newsletter all the time. Or like, oh, I've got, I've saved all of your newsletter editions. So I was like, oh, well, like, let me just like make this tool for people. So it's a database of all the breakdowns from the newsletter. So there's over 1,000. And then on top of that, there's AI that will generate titles for you based on what is in the newsletter. So like if you go to ChatGPT, if you ask ChatGPT, hey, write me a title for this, most of the time it's going to put in a colon. It's going to be like a kind of a funky looking YouTube title. But our AI is looking at, hey, this has been proven to go viral or to be really successful on YouTube. Let's write titles like this. So the AI is pretty much a way to like digest all 162 editions of the newsletter and write titles for you. So it's really a speed thing. And also people have gotten some really cool results from the title generator.
One of the biggest things that I've learned relatively recently is the way that guys like MrBeast, they link their titles with their thumbnails with the first 5 seconds, right? So if it's like comparing a $1 boat with a $1 billion boat, they'll have the $1 billion boat in the thumbnail, they'll have the $1 billion boat in the title, and then in the first 5 seconds they'll have the $1 billion boat. And I think that's genius in that it straight away it sets expectations and it proves that this video is exactly what the viewer clicked on it for. There's no clickbait here. I'm wondering, you've got like such a big database of what works and what doesn't. What's the most surprising, or what's one of the bigger things or unexpected things that you've found with YouTube titles, or even YouTube thumbnails?
The first thing that comes to mind with titles is that things don't change that much. So, a lot of titles, I've been doing this since 2021. And if you go in the database and you sort by like oldest, you'll see some titles and you're like, wow, like this would actually work really well today. Or like, dude, like I just saw this work like last week on this title, or a similar variation to this title popped up on my homepage. So a lot of the stuff doesn't change year over year. There are some trends. All we're doing here is like studying psychology. So one way to develop curiosity in your audience's mind is to open up a loop. Let's say you were like, in 2014 or 2013, you were BuzzFeed, and you're writing a title like, 34 34 national parks you should visit. You'll never guess number 17. That's one way to open up a loop. That was all like clickbaity, and it was just that strategy was so overused. But you can still use the same strategy, just in a slightly different way. The one national park that you have to visit, this summer or something. So it's still talking about like, oh, you have to visit this one national park. You'll never believe this, but we're not being like a little over dramatic, but we're still kind of leaving you on a cliffhanger. We're not specifying what that national park is or whatever that thing is. So it's using the same general strategy of building curiosity, opening up a loop, making you wonder, what are they talking about? But in a slightly different way. Like, psychology hasn't changed in thousands and thousands of years. So if you could just be a master at psychology, then you'll be able to write good YouTube titles, and not only like YouTube titles, you'll be able to write like good hooks, good thumbnails, good thumbnail text, good emails, like good, posts on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, anything. Like, curiosity is like the biggest thing that you can learn that will have like the biggest benefit for your business?
Yeah, I use this example quite often. Again, MrBeast. I was watching one of his videos a few months ago, and it was like I think it was like a 15-minute video, and I counted 18 curiosity gaps in just a 15-minute video. And what's interesting is they weren't obvious curiosity gaps. If you wasn't specifically looking for them, you wouldn't probably notice them. You would probably subconsciously notice them, but not consciously. That's something that I'm trying to kind of incorporate more into my videos. So I'm doing I ran 5K every day for 30-day challenge. And then I'm just trying to add not as many curiosity gaps as I can, but many curiosity gaps throughout the video. So for example, I got a blood test done, and I was going through the results, and I was like, I'm really not happy with like but I didn't say what the results were. And I'd be like, I've got a doctor's appointment in 4 or 5 days, so I'll keep you guys updated on what this is. And then in 4 or 5 days, I kind of quote unquote release the results.
Yeah, I love that. And what you're doing, like, you're kind of hinting like, hey, like, I got these blood test results, but like you don't tell them. You're using the same exact strategy in your title. Like, oh, I ran a 5K every day, but like you don't tell people what happened. I love that. And I think that if more people thought in like, okay, how do I tease and and get people excited about something, I think that your content will be better. Of course, you have to deliver on that. You've got to make a good title or a good video, and like you have to make good content. But that's curiosity is like the way to get people interested in staying for your content.
I think then the difficult part is, where's the fine line between being too obvious in that and not? Because we are, let's say, trained to look at these things. But when I see a title, I've done 30-day challenge, you won't believe the results, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Like I've seen this title 16 times in the last week. It's really difficult to stand out. So you have to be more creative and creative. So you say like, yes, it's evergreen, or in the last few years, it is the same strategy, but we have to get more creative because people are getting spoiled, I might say, with things like in like you said, like BuzzFeed could rocket in the 2016 with like, you don't know what 17 will bring you. It's like, so yeah, there's the creativity levels are going, have to go up.
Yeah. But then, so I was looking at, I woke up at 5 a.m. every day. I just like searched that on YouTube the other day. Matt D'Avella, 5 years ago, he had like a couple million views on that. And then like, there was like a couple people like 2 or 3 years ago, a couple million views. 1 year ago, a couple million views. So there are some things that work just a lot all the time. Even some smaller creators, like they were getting over 1 million views on that same exact idea. I was talking to a buddy about, when is something considered like saturated? Like, okay, when is this like, enough's enough on this? I woke up at 5 a.m. every day. And my buddy had a really good point. He's like, if you like the creator, you don't care. Like it can never be too saturated. His example was, he's like, I like Casey Neistat so much. Like if he makes any like popular video, I'm going to watch it because I want to see his take on that. So if you have a loyal audience, then it's almost like you're like getting like exempt from the rules. Like people don't really care. Like they want to see you and your take and your personality and your thoughts on something.
Well, they put in all the work to get the goodwill from their viewers. So the later they can cash it in is like, I've been putting in 400 days in a row to make a banger daily vlog. And so if I want to make another video, I can choose whatever that may be. Because you're gonna like, and Casey's thing, he doesn't even care if you watch it or not because he makes it for himself. But yeah, this is with other creators as well. But what I'm starting to notice with YouTube is, if we're going down this topic of like popular videos, is I see a lot more small creators blow up with one video. For example, this guy Callum, I think, and he talks marketing and YouTube as well. And he interviewed the marketing manager of Stephen Bartlett from Diary of a CEO. And then this video I saw for the first time when it blew up, when it had like 10,000 views. And I think when it settled down, weeks later, it was sitting in the hundreds of thousands of views, and then tripling, quadrupling the channel. But then the cool thing is people jump on that idea as well. And I think that is a really good indication of when a topic is very popular, because from a larger creator, it's a lot more difficult to think like, okay, the larger creator does it well, indeed, for that goodwill and the audience that they have. And YouTube changed in that way that they are showing you smaller creators now in your home feed, right? Like there's so often that you have a creator with like even 12 views or a few hundred views. And I'm like, well, that's random. But I know YouTube is pushing it towards you for that exact reason, that it gives you a chance to grow. But then you do kind of look at the size of the channel and you're like, I don't really want to watch that. So yeah.
Before we continue with the episode, I really quickly want to talk about some of the results that we're getting for some of our clients at Playstack. With BK Traders, one of our clients, we significantly increased their views. We started working with them July the 16th, 2023, and they were averaging about 1,000 views per day, and now they're averaging about 10,000 to 11,000 views per day. The second client, Luke Nguyen, before we started working with him, he was getting almost 0 views per video, and it took us 1 month and 21 days before we was getting Luke 39,000 views a day. Cannabis legalization news, we 200x'd his views. As soon as we start working with the client, the first video is almost always a 1 out of 10, meaning that it outperforms the last 10 of the videos. And our mastermind is full of great advice, great results. We've got some very experienced YouTubers in there, 1, 2, 3 million subscribers. If you are interested in a free YouTube strategy call, you can click the link in the description below or look in the show notes and book a call with me and Milan. We'll be more than happy to share as much information as we can to help you grow on YouTube and make more sales. Yeah, I'm also noticing a lot of smaller YouTube videos popping up on my channel because I'm watching a lot of marathon stuff. So our company actually running a marathon in December, and so we're all kind of preparing. Or at least I'm preparing. I don't know about anyone else, but I'm watching a lot of marathon videos. And what's interesting is I'm watching a lot of new channels pop up that have got literally like 50 views, 100 views, but they're right at the beginning of the marathon journey. And I find those videos really interesting because I want to follow the journey and I want to see because it's a curiosity gap in itself to see whether they will actually complete the marathon in 6 months, in 8 months' time. So I think the YouTube algorithm is at least giving smaller channels a leg up, I guess.
Yeah. The opportunity right now is it's so fun. It's so fun. I feel like YouTube is truly merit based, where like if you can make good content and get people to click, if you can get people to click and stick, doesn't matter who you are, how big your channel is, when you started, I think you have a real shot at good success on YouTube.
Especially with the video editing these days seems to be slowing down a little bit. I know that MrBeast, he talked about it recently on Twitter, and more raw videos with slower pace video editing seems to be kind of the go-to editing style now. Even same with thumbnails. Thumbnails seem to be like not too clickbaity these days versus even just a few months ago, which I think is the right direction. Because it was getting a little bit too extreme, a little bit too fast paced for my liking personally.
Yeah, agreed. And I wonder if it's just like a big kind of overarching theme of like, just get back to real, like with the fast paced editing, the over editing, and also like the AI, like, everything is just fake and like, just really artificial. But now it's like, oh, let's be more emotional. Like, let's be more authentic. Let's be real humans, not like, crazy, over exaggerating, entertainment people or AI, which is obviously like not real. So, it does seem to people seem to be craving that authentic and real feeling now.
So with the new with the new A/B testing thumbnail feature on YouTube, I mean, it's a great feature. I've been using it since it came out on all our clients' channels and our own channel. And it just gives you that more freedom to play around and actually like not to be stressed out of like, oh, I need to nail this thumbnail. So but now you can play around. But I used the tool Thumbnail Test before from Rocks Codes. We had an interview with him before, actually the day he sold it, very interestingly. But how do you approach A/B testing and title? What's your main approach to like come up with a title? Are you coming up with an idea, then a title, or you come up with a title, work out the idea? What's your thinking process?
That's a good question. So there are two methods that I use for the most part to come up with ideas. The first, I call it like the DJ Khaled method. And this is when you remix proven titles on YouTube for your niche. So that was like the method I mentioned earlier. So this finance channel, they did 10 best credit cards of 2024. For our fishing channel, we did 10 best trout lures of 2024. So that's, I'll scroll through some adjacent channels. And that's really what like Creator Hooks is. Like, it's just the DJ Khaled method, just, bringing in stuff from outside of, other niches into, and teaching you, how to use it for your channel. So I'll do that. And so I'll do that. I'll also, actually, no, there are three ways. One thing, I'll look at my competitors' channels, and I'll see like, all right, what is working for them now and what is working for them like, all time. I'll either try to put a spin on that video if I can. I'll create something similar. I feel like in most niches, like there are just topics that work kind of all the time, and like you just have to make your version of that video. One example might be like X years of 10 years of experience in 10 minutes, like 10 years of business experience in 10 minutes, 10 years of like cooking experience in 10 minutes. So yeah, probably everybody is going to make their own version of that. And then also just looking for like kind of trends. Like, I'll look at their most recent outliers, and I'll look at their most popular videos. And for many niches, there are like 5 things that work really well. So let's say I had like, how to start a YouTube channel, getting more views works well all the time. Getting more subscribers, like, monetizing, those might be like my 3 main topics. And then I'll keep those in mind as I'm kind of remixing other, ideas from other niches. But then I'll also take those 3 topics and I'll run them through what I call like click triggers. So like curiosity. So, okay, how can I write these 3 topics like with a curiosity angle? Like fear is another click trigger. How can I write these titles for these ideas like with a fear angle? Or like desire, how can I write these ideas like with a desire angle? Those are a couple different ways where I come up with ideas. And then as far as A/B testing, I love A/B testing. Like one of the big things I like about A/B testing is that you can just see what works for your channel. So like, yes, like obviously when you're A/B testing, you want to try to optimize a video and find the best title and thumbnail. My favorite thing is like, let me just learn more about what works on my channel, like what works with my audience, what works in general. So I have just like I'll look through all of my past A/B tests, and I'll come up with theories, and then I'll test those in like another video idea or another A/B test, and just really trying to get to know my audience and get to know what makes a good title, what makes a good thumbnail. It's like priceless. Like you can't beat getting like, that's one of the best ways to get better at titles and thumbnails, is to just look at what has worked and what has not. Come up with theories. Be like, all right, I think that my audience likes numbered lists. So then you test some more numbered lists, and like maybe they do okay, maybe they flop. And like, all right, maybe that theory isn't always true. Like let's write these titles about like a specific thing in this list. So those are just like a couple different angles you can try. But then like when it comes to like actually A/B testing, I mentioned curiosity, fear, and desire earlier. So like I will A/B test like maybe I'll start with like curiosity based title, and then I'll test like a fear based title or thumbnail, and then I'll test like a desire based title or thumbnail, and I'll mix and match. Like maybe the title will be curiosity based and the thumbnail will be fear based, or the thumbnail will be desire based and the title will be fear based, or different, just mixing and matching of emotions, and that'll help me come up with a bunch of different ideas and eventually kind of see what works and what my audience likes.
I found when it comes to titles, having first person pronouns in the titles are really good. Like for example, if you had 2 videos, I made $1 million in 2024 versus how to make $1 million in 2024, right? The how I made $1 million in 2024 would get significantly more views than the how to, because straight away, before the viewers even clicked, the viewer knows that there's some credibility there, that you're talking from experience as opposed to just kind of opinion. Have you been experiencing the same thing with your titles?
I love credibility, and I think like especially with where we're going with all this AI and stuff, like credibility and authenticity are like kind of the only things we have, because we're competing against computers, like we're real people. So how I did something is great. However, I think it really depends on the channel, where some channels, the how-to videos do better, and those seem to be more topic and goal-oriented channels versus like maybe people like love the creator. So like if I watch MrBeast, for example, like I want to see how I videos because I love MrBeast. Like I want him to talk about like his experiences. But if I'm watching like just like some random like video about like how to do your taxes, I don't know. If I'm just like searching, I probably want to know how you can save money on your 2025 taxes or something. So I think it really depends on the channel and the mindset of the audience and the relationship of the creator and the audience.
Yeah, AI is it's like a catch-22. I find is like it simplifies so many things for us. The way I've been using it mostly is that for inspiration. I asked ChatGPT after I gave the transcript to them. I was like, give me 10 slightly clickbaity titles, and then it will be either a match from all of them. Your AI integration and creator hooks, is that just based off all the titles you had before, or is there like a prompt integrated, let's say, that like, can you give me a fear driven, can you give me a desire driven title on this?
The title generator, so you'll describe your video, and then you can choose the click trigger. There are like 30 click triggers. So fear, curiosity, desire. You can open a loop, ask a question, timeliness, time frame, pain point. Just 30 different of those. So you can choose the angle that you want. You don't have to, but if you want. And then you say, all right, my video is about this. I want to use this click trigger. I want to open up a loop. And then generate. And it will go through the database. It will look through the 1,000. Of those 1,000, which of those 1,000 videos open a loop? And then, okay, cool. Let's get inspiration from all these videos that opened up a loop, just to give you a little bit more, control. And also, it's like, all right, these have proven to be successful on YouTube. My experience, like AI has never generated for me. So like time frame, how to start a YouTube channel in 30 days, or how I got 1 million subscribers in 10 days, or whatever it is. Time frame, stop. So like why I stopped asking people to subscribe. Stuff like that has worked well on YouTube. Most people don't really think to test those click triggers out. And I think that's been, it's one of the cooler features of the title generator.
Yeah, that's a good point. And okay, so you developed your newsletter and then you started the tool. What's next for Creative Hooks?
That is a good question. We actually just made a big release this morning. We updated the title generator, so now like you can select how many like characters you want for the title generator. Cleaned up a couple other like small bugs there. We ramped up our favorites tab, which was now it's a lot better now. I have a Chrome extension in the works where it will do the DJ Khaled method. It will remix titles for you. So you'll have your profile, you'll have like some topics and keywords that you make videos about, and then there's like a little AI icon on the video on YouTube. You click that, it'll turn that video into titles for you.
I love that. Yeah, for all the tools that we use, it's actually their Chrome extensions that are almost most valuable out of all of them. Like 1 of 10, vidIQ, and now ViewStats, all their Chrome extensions are active on when I go through YouTube, and it's just like it's so useful to have it. Okay, so new release for that. Is there any bigger, like what else could you do? You want to expand into other things like thumbnails and stuff, or just stick to titles?
I don't think we might do thumbnail text, but no, we're going to stick to titles for the most part. Just coming up with different ways of how you can, how we can help you come up with better ideas and write better titles. Doing a lot of a lot of experimenting with AI. How can we get more data into what works? How can we know what will work for your channel? So we might even go more narrow with like, all right, we only help educational channels. I'm not sure. We're gonna play around with that. But yeah, just focusing on helping people come up with ideas and write better titles. For educational channels, maybe. But really, just trying to be the best at that tool versus helping with scripts, helping with thumbnails, helping with everything else.
I do like that though, because the idea and the title is like the most important, arguably, for a video to go viral or have success in general. So if you can nail that's a good start. Cool. Jake, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. It's very insightful. We love YouTube titles, and it's a never-ending story, especially if you want to, like, we try to train our team to do it and things like that, but it's never-ending. There's so much resources and data out there. So thank you for all your hard work to put that all together. And it was great chatting to you.
Of course.